Great, thank you. Asad, would you like to start us off?
Okay. Hello, everyone, and whoever will be watching through YouTube or the digital technology. This is Asad and Christina. We are talking about our story about Undivided Leadership Program. It's a specific program that started by Christina, and she will share more about the history and context, and I will share a little bit about the structure of the program. So it's a cohort-based program. We offer this program for a whole year. There are 4 specific retreats that we have as a part of the program, and usually we have 12 to 24 people, and these are from different denominations, orientations, and spiritualities, and groups and ethnic groups. Wonderfully diverse group of people we have for the last few years, and usually we have scholarships for those who are in need. Also, we have some base fees that like around $1,200 for the whole year. And the application process is also very rigorous. We're fortunate to have many applications during the application process. And Christina and we just read those applications, and then also we talk to people in person whether they're ready to have this specific program, because it's more advanced level of understanding of spirituality and social justice. We call it contemplative justice, combining people who are interested in social justice plus also who are interested in what we call soul work or spiritual nurturing, so combining both. So there are a lot of people who are interested in this area, and some we are also we have Zoom calls before the final selection, so that we know that they're ready for this particular program. Because a lot of time from those reading, you have one specific idea, but when you meet people, and then you may feel, no, I'm still not ready. I still have some fundamental work or foundational work to do before I jump into this social justice and spiritual work, or what we call contemplative justice, the term we use it very often. And a few unique qualities that this program that I would like to share, and then Christina will share more about the historical context and the background, the way she started. One is when I was a participant of this program in 2017, when I was applying into this program, I think the thing that really attracted me was in application form, there was one section. It says, we have special prayer room. Do you need anything to nurture your spiritual practices? And as a Muslim, this is so important for me, that this is an organization who care about my spiritual need, and also asking me whether I need anything additional to support my spiritual need. That was, I attended in so many conferences, and it was one of the very few, I guess, one of the very few who explicitly ask about my spiritual need and what are the things that can be accommodated. So that I see from the get-go, the program had that specific way to support people in different ways, however way they like. And that also had ripple effect on my practices. So whenever I did any specific conferences, workshops, I added that line. So that I see whoever in their own spiritual practices and social justice areas, they will come. There is that container that they can explore their own way of co-creation. And secondly, in my own understanding, this is one of the very few programs in North America that has explicit focus on social justice and spirituality. Very specific and explicit, that if you are doing inner work, you need to explore also your activist work. If you are activist, you also need to explore your inner work. So combining both your healer hat and warrior hat, how do you nurture both? And this program has that amazing themes and workshops and speakers, and the way we themes and topics. And finally, the participants who are here, they also have opportunities to what we call co-creation. During they have opportunities to offer any specific practices. We really encourage them to offer practices that are important to their tradition, to their spirituality, so that we can witness and learn from each other. So that's so beautiful how we learn. Even I learn, and Christina, we as a facilitator, we learn from the participants. So there is that co-creation, or in this particular program, that is built in.
Thank you, my friend. Asad is such a gift and a joy to work with, and this is the third cohort that we're currently in right now. We have one more retreat left out of the 4 retreats, and it's such a gift, Asad, to facilitate with you, and to have you in as a participant the year before was also such a gift and a joy to have you. So thank you, and thanks for describing the program. I'll talk a little bit about how the program came to be and the history of the program. It grew out of a need and a longing from folks in United Church congregations to understand a bit more about power and privilege and systemic injustice. And it also grew out of an ignorance of power and privilege and systemic injustice. So a number of years ago, I was contracted by some volunteers in what's now the Pacific Mountain region to call congregations in the United Church and ask what social justice work people were doing, what did people want to learn about, what support did people need, what are the challenges people had. And a lot of the work being done then, and still currently a lot of the work, is what I'm starting to call and think of as embodied work. So a lot of food ministry, a lot of meeting people's basic needs type of work, which is really essential and really important because people have bodily needs that need to be cared for now. And there was but there was less awareness and application of more systemic, exploring systemic injustice and exploring systemic oppression, which requires an understanding of power and privilege in order to do that work effectively, especially coming from a largely white middle and upper class institution. So that's part of the impetus for this program was that longing and that lack of knowledge simultaneously. And what felt really important for this program was to create a space where we could have important conversations that matter with people from a variety of different backgrounds. So racially, religiously, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, disability, and ability in the room at the same time, having conversations that really matter. And to be able to have conversations about oppression and justice and pain and healing and hope in that context is a really different conversation than I'd had before in United Church circles around social justice, which is largely, again, largely white, middle-class Christian folks gathering together to talk about social justice work. And I've learned from people who've experienced systemic oppression and marginalization, so people of color, folks with disabilities, that it's so important to have those voices in the room when we're having conversations about injustice. It's also been my experience as a woman and as a queer person that it's essential to be in the room when there's conversations about oppression and there's conversations about strategy for creating responses to systemic injustice. If people aren't in the room and can't have a say and a voice in those conversations, it's just so likely that the status quo, which is oppression and violence and racism, will continue because we need to have all of the voices in the space in order to make good decisions about how to move forward together. So from my perspective, this program is a small step towards decolonizing the social justice work that the United Church has been doing. And that's not to say that the social justice work wholesale is colonizing, but this is a step to further decolonizing. And I understand myself as also participating in colonization, not because I necessarily want to or am choosing to, but because that's the systems that I'm part of, and that's the systems that I participate in. And so taking an active stance of learning about my power and privilege as a white Christian person allows me to be more aware of working towards decolonization in our social justice work. So that's a bit about where the program comes from, a bit about my own passion and why it feels like it really matters to me. And I think there's been a lot of learning, and Asad, I'm really keen if you have more to say about this too, but along the way, participants and also facilitators have really changed and shaped the program as we've come along. So each year there's been sometimes major and sometimes minor tweaks. Sometimes one year has impacted the next year. Sometimes one weekend has impacted the next weekend. So we're really tweaking and shifting to meet the needs of participants and people in the space. Asad, yeah.
Thank you, Christina, to beautifully summarize the context. And I really admire the way you mentioned like how this is a process of decolonizing social justice work, and this is one of the steps. And a beautiful story I have that I would like to share. We have one participant in last year's cohort, and her name, I knew her Shauna all the time since I met her. So she was Shauna, and in every possible way she was Shauna. And at the end of our retreat, there is the transformation we witness, and she became Sandeep Kaur. And then she, like, this is like literally we saw in our retreat 1 to retreat 4, there is that extraordinary transformation within Shauna to Sandeep. And that was so inspiring to hear and to see and to also listen her journey. And this program, there is magic in this container that happened, that people really explore their roots and understand who we are, and then finding meaning and belonging in a way that is more rooted and nurturing and like connected. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sandeep was her given name, her birth name, and her the name her mother gave her. And then through the white Western education system, she'd been given the name of Shauna. And so it was really a reclaiming, right, Asad, of her name. Yeah. Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah. Joshua, is there more that you feel like would be important for us to share in this portion?
Maybe we could close the conversation with you sharing in a way that you've been personally transformed. That feels okay.
Sure.
Just as the facilitators, you're holding a lot for a lot of people, and
sure.
The reflection on some of your own journey, if you feel comfortable.
Sure, yeah. Asad, I can go if you want time to think, or I'm happy for you to go.
After you.
Okay, thank you. I think for me, it's been a huge lesson in humility and lesson in knowing that because of how I've been socialized as a white Christian woman, I'm just going to make a lot of mistakes in working towards social justice and in doing anti-oppression work. And so being able to feel defensiveness rise up in me and then ground it in my contemplative practice, in my community, and then move forward with curiosity and with an open heart has been really, really important for me, because the shift from saying, no, I'm not racist, I can't be racist, to, oh, I've been socialized that there's a lot of ways that I see the world and interact in the world that are racist and cause harm to people. That shift has been really important for me because it's allowed me to not be as defensive and just understand that unlearning power and privilege is something that's really important because I care about people and because I love the people that I'm working with and connected to. So it becomes more concrete and embodied in relationship and in love rather than an abstract idea. When someone says this hurt me, me learning to be able to say, oh, okay, let me dig deep into myself and learn about that and learn how I can do that differently has been really important and really essential for me. Yeah, it's been a great gift.
Yeah, for me, the way it really reminded me about stillness and activities, like combining both in my daily life. Like it's like when I'm sharing a specific practice that is deeply rooted in my tradition and spirituality, and then I'm also reminded that how do I act upon those practices. So it's like you're a monk at night and you're also activist in daytime.
Mm-hmm.
So that consistent reminders during from week 1, so retreat 1, and then I relapse in between week retreat 1 to retreat 2, and then there is that reminder again in retreat 2. So there is that consistent practice from I think from our retreat 1 that usually happen around February, and then retreat 4 that usually happen in November. It's a whole consistent practice. And I'm not saying that that we are continuously learning. So I wish to make that as a habit. Like I'm doing social justice work on the ground in like something in the community where we need to go in terms of support wherever there is any specific protest in any specific issues that I'm there. I'm also at night praying and then thinking and then doing specific very deep rooted meditation that I have been gifted from my specific spiritual practice. I think that reminder consistently from retreat 1 to retreat 4 had been an amazing gift. And also like there is a beauty when we do together. So sometimes when those practices we do in those retreats, there is something amazing that we find in each other and the way we support each other. And lastly, in the retreat, there is one program called pod. Like we have like a group, small groups, where we share with each other. So when I was one of the participants in 2017, in our pod, we learned from each other. Like we used to meet once in a month, and then it's like they became like our buddies. Like something happened, like empathy buddy. Like we will share and talk. So that's so beautiful. That we have somebody that we can check in and share, and then it's more of kind of relational accountability people. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing your story, both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Joshua, for having us and listening to our stories.
Okay, so I stopped the recording. It's